Hey class, my name is Michael Dick, and you are watching my final negotiation. So, me and my girlfriend are actually graduating in summer quarter 2016 from Eastern Washington University, and one of the big things we've been talking about is where we're going to live after we graduate. There's so many places you can go with a degree nowadays, and it's just a really big thing, so it's a decision that you can't make lightly. We both actually grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and it's something that we're just used to, and it really vibes, and that we like it. All our family, tons of connections and stuff over here, so we're thinking we're gonna stick with Seattle, Washington, the upper leftmost part of the United States of America. Why this city? So, like I said, we grew up around this area. We're in love with the sports teams. I've played soccer since I was 5 years old. I'm now 22. It's just I guess it's like Soccer City, USA, apparently. Besides the Sounders, they have the Seahawks, they have the Mariners, they have the Seattle Thunderbirds in Kent. They're talking about getting an NFL team, but we don't know. NHL team, but we don't know when that's going to go down. So we love the views. I mean, if you've ever been up there, like, the Pacific Northwest is gorgeous. Seattle is right on the water, mountains it's surrounded by. We love the different restaurants that it's available. My mom is Jamaican, so growing up, I've always had access and been introduced to tons of different foods, so it's something I want to keep doing. It's a gigantic city. I guess Seattle is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, and there's so many different kinds of people that you can meet and make part of your life. Another big thing for us is the music scene. Me and my girlfriend, we love music. Like, it's how we met, actually. And we'd love to keep that going. Because of that, we have actually been to Wajimai a couple of times, and we love the location. It's in the biggest Asian shopping center, I guess, in the Pacific Northwest. And we're looking at their Iwajimaya Village Apartments. Why this apartment? It allows pets. I've always grown up with dogs. It's something I love. It just makes it feel like home, you know? The prime location, Iwajimaya and the Chinatown in Seattle is right by CenturyLink. It is right by Safeco. It's right downtown, pretty much. It's, of course, surrounded by all those, like, associated restaurants and tons of bars, because we're both, of age. It's close to sporting team venues, I mentioned that. The music venues, the WAMU's over there, CenturyLink, tons of little venues that little obscure bands that we love go to and stuff, so it's perfect. So our self-assessment, our target points were that it met at least 3 points of what made the apartment in Seattle in general attractive. Another point was, is it within the median cost of apartments in the Seattle area? Our best alternative was to keep looking because, we're not going to move into there until, October, November-ish, So we have tons of time still. We're just looking early right now. And we're willing to sacrifice efficiency for price as long as some of our points are being met. Our reservation point was outside the median cost of apartments in the Seattle area. That means we don't want to, Seattle's already an expensive enough place. We don't want to be paying even more on top of that. Some focal points were the starting cost as well as the cost of apartments nearby. Something to base what we were willing to pay off of. Sunk costs were the application fee and the time spent being unreasonable. I put that because you can't expect to get all the amenities with like a bottom barrel price. You have to be reasonable and kind of base your expectations off reality. Some issues that came up were the rent. If it was too much, it was just not even a go for us. The size of apartments at Iwajimaya versus the ones in the area the parking and the moving costs, how much it would cost for us to get all our junk from Eastern Washington into downtown Seattle. Who is the other group we're negotiating with? They are a small group called Equity Apartment Group. They have a website. It has not only links to the Uwajimaya Village apartments, but links to other apartments in the area, which is actually really helpful on finding different quotes and different things that the other apartments offer. There are multiple agents to talk to. I don't think the several times we called in, we really had to wait, so maybe like a minute or two. Counterparty interest. It's not a cheap place to have a business. Because of that, there are high fixed costs. These costs need to be offset, meaning that they need residents to come in and pay and, make money off of them. They're looking for good residents who are able to pay and bring business to the surrounding area. I put this because the more the business surrounding them thrived and prospered, the more that their property value would go up. The counterparty best alternative was hope a resident comes along sooner versus later, because they do have these high fixed costs living in Seattle. Empty apartments lose money, and safe, reliable residents that have a good job, have good credit history, the whole shebang. Situational assessment. So we are both negotiating for a necessity. Me needing the necessity, me and my girlfriend needing the necessity, and the apartment group having this necessity. But there are so many alternatives, there's not really a heavier hand. The resources are not scarce. But there is a limited amount of time. Us moving in late fall, and them having these fixed costs they need to offset. These signing an agreement with Uwajimaya's group won't affect or be dependent on any other agreements that we have standing, whether that be job or anything of that nature. An agreement is required. None of these groups, we can't force Uwajimaya to take an offer that we want, and they can't force us to pay the money. We have to agree. Negotiation is legal and encouraged, so it's best to kind of get a feel for, does the other side really have as much an advantage as they say that they do? The negotiation location. How are we going to do this? We've mostly been emailing them and phone calling over some things that are kind of confusing to us. Another thing is it's a private negotiation, meaning that an offer they give us is between us. Like, we can't go and be like, oh, well, we heard you gave Sue and Dave like a certain offer. Like, it doesn't work that way. It depends on what they have to offer, which goes into the kind of, quote that they got. There's more than one offer. So if he's telling me like $500 a month today, that doesn't matter, because, that was today, and he could be telling me something completely different tomorrow. This formal and informal offers. I put this because in negotiation you can kind of get a feel for what the other party's offering without actually explicitly giving it to them. You're kind of seeing what they have on their side. There's not a gigantic power difference like I mentioned before, which plays a really big role in negotiation. And this sets a baseline for future negotiations, meaning that if we agree on a price today to be paid in November, then when we come to renew our lease or whatever, we're like, okay, well, we paid this amount. Like, what are you willing to give us? Evaluate the negotiation. We open by doing research, so it's everything from Googling to calling in to looking at their website to looking at websites of businesses around Seattle. Submitting an application. This means paying the fee, writing down our names, putting down our credit information, all that shebang. The manager called me next week to say that I was approved. So I got accepted to work at this really important law firm. My dad pulled a few strings. And so I wasn't really concerned about my application getting confirmed. But it goes into that part about apartments wanting residents who are reliable and safe. We talked about more specifics. The manager noted it was a very noisy in the area just to warn me. There's a lot going on. It's Seattle. I kind of expected that. I asked about the pet deposit. He informed me, and I asked about other things like parking, I guess, restaurants eating in the area. I mean, at this point, it was kind of where I wanted to go, just based on some of the other stuff around the area. So it's just kind of, small talk. Here is my apartment. We are set to move in on November 1st, 2016. Some thoughts. Before negotiations, it always made me anxious. I'd always wanted to kind of get out of the conversation as fast as possible, so I just kind of said whatever it took, or took any kind of offer, even if it might not have been the best one. I learned that assessing the other party is very interesting. They can have something that they have on their website, which is completely different to the way they hold themselves in person. I have some relatives who are salesmen, or have sold some things in the future, in the past, and they told me sometimes they'll quote at a higher price, so that when they're negotiating, if somebody wants to lower the price, it's higher than they originally thought they would actually get, so it isn't that big of a deal. I'm trying to negotiate when desperate. This is what I said about the power differential. When you're negotiating when you're desperate, you're more likely to take a bad deal or something that you're going to regret later. You're not as powerless as initially expected because renters need these tenants, especially in a place that's expensive as Seattle. There are high fixed costs they need to pay off. Also, I wasn't going in. This is the first apartment that I've ever rented, so I was a little bit scared, and I thought that the renter would have the advantage, the absolute advantage, just because he does that for a living, and it wasn't as true as I thought it would be. Knowing your basic alternatives. So I put this because it's important to know when you're no longer going to negotiate. Like if the price is outrageous, if the terms just don't suit you at all, there's less pressure, as you already know before going into the situation that you're going to leave if it reaches a certain point. And something for the future would be to research the other partner's basic alternatives, knowing where they're coming from, so you can better talk to them. I feel as if you can talk to them in a more, strategic sense, that they will receive your offers better and might be willing to make a few concessions here or there. Anyways, thanks for listening.